Good evening. I think the picture that's being painted here is one where the government has gone beyond the bounds that restrict it. The Constitution restricts what city, county, state governments can do. It's really unfortunate that that has happened, but everybody's going to be responsible for the choices that they made during that time.
What's your location?
Yeah. Well, you had to go because your husband refused to get out of the water when he was instructed multiple times to.
Okay.
And we gave him the warning that if he continues, that he will be arrested for 2 different offenses, right? And he just continued walking, and we had no choice. He forced us to go out in the water to get him.
You always have a choice.
Stop with that.
He forced
Okay,
us.
so drop your back. You're going to go to jail with him.
Because you were advised earlier to get to the beach. You refused to help me get your husband out of the water when I asked you to. Okay, so now you're also going to jail.
Welcome back to the channel, everybody. In this video, we'll be covering an extraordinary city council meeting that took place on December 3rd, 2024 in the city of Carmel-by-the-Sea, California. What stood out about this meeting was the collective effort of the speakers to ensure their message was heard despite the 3-minute time limit typically imposed on individual comments. As I observed, when one speaker's time ran out, the next speaker seamlessly continued where the previous speaker had left off. This process repeated itself until they fully conveyed the message they wanted to convey. Their focus of their speeches was to address the departure of city council members and the mayor, reflecting on their controversial legacies. The speakers did not shy away from holding these officials accountable for decisions made in 2020 during the pandemic, highlighting what they viewed as significant injustices. I'll share a few clips to provide context before diving into the full meeting. You'll see the public united in calling out these politicians, whose reactions, mocking gestures, and dismissive expressions and condescending attitudes were deeply unsettling. Notably, Councilman Bobby Richards was caught on camera mocking a speaker whose hands were allegedly shaking. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to Teresa Bacola's YouTube channel for additional context and updates. The link to her channel will be provided in the description of the video. Let's get into it and examine this powerful moment of public accountability.
Hi there, freedom fighters. My name is Teresa Bacola, and I was arrested by the Carmel-by-the-Sea Police Department in July of 2020 for being on Carmel Beach in California. This was 5 months into an ever-expanding government overreach, and I hadn't done much of anything except get irritated and complain. But I became irate when I saw an announcement in the paper 1 week prior to the 4th of July weekend that they were going to be closing our beaches. On June 17, 2020, Mayor Dave Potter and City Manager Chip Rarig of Carmel-by-the-Sea, California, extend an invitation to come visit Carmel Beach.
Always something going on in Carmel. We do have the 4th of July weekend coming up. 4th is on a Saturday. We're a little concerned about over-attendance in the community, but rest assured we are prepared for an onslaught of people recognizing that we do have the most spectacular beach in the state of California, and I say that with a lot of pride, but actually very factually.
Absolutely, sir. You're exactly right. You know, the great outdoors is always open in Carmel-by-the-Sea. We're not going to close the beach for the 4th of July, which is on a Saturday, or the following Sunday, the 5th. So please come and.
Sir, you need to get out of the water. The beach is closed. The waves. Somebody else fucking get them.
You stop walking, you're going to jail.
Sir! Just come over here and talk to me! Why do you have to keep walking? Over, you really want to go to jail over something very stupid? Come talk to me. Yes, you are. The public beach is closed. You're on the beach. Yes, you are. Well, eventually you're going to run out of beach and you're going to get arrested, so we'll just keep walking with you. Okay, so now you're delaying an officer in the course of his duties. You really want to do that? So that's another charge, right? So now you have disobeying a lawful order and obstructing an officer in his duties. Because now you're resisting arrest. Because you keep walking. Come on, you got your dog with you? Do you really want to go through all this? This is so stupid. Like, why? Why are you doing this? I don't get this. Over what? Because you can't walk on a beach? Are you having a hard time today or something? Is that why you're doing this? Hi, it's Friday, so you're probably not going to see a judge until Monday. At this point, we're just going to keep walking back and forth.
Wait till he gets
Huh?
go get him.
Yeah, I'll go get him. He's not giving us any other choice.
Oh, he's going to jail.
Yeah, he's...
Just saying, I was 97. I'm out with them.
Joe.
97,
Joe.
Break Lincoln 3, Carmel information on pending depot.
Okay. Joe.
How about fall on city property occurred at Mission and Ocean?
Irrespective of whatever you think happened in 2020, to be near the ocean is our birthright, and it will always be our birthright. I had police officers drag Jay and I out to the jail 25 miles away and snicker as they forced me to surrender my temperature, had strangers put their hands all over me, they stole some of my things, had 3 criminal charges filed against me by this department, including entering a closed disaster area, multiple warrants issued for my arrest, and I was arrested again at the police department when I tried to pick up the body camera footage of this arrest. I had a reporter recently ask me why I'm still pressing this if it happened back in 2020. Well, first of all, I didn't hire a lawyer, and it takes time to learn the language of the law. And secondly, why does it matter when this happened? Because what's next if they're not held accountable for this? Some unelected politician in a town famous for a beautiful waterfall gets up one morning and he alone decides, for our safety, if you even try to be near that waterfall, there will be violence? But a couple of people say no, it is our right to experience a gift from God, and as soon as they walk towards it, the town's police officers slam the man to the ground. They both get treated in cuff-like property as the crowd watches in horror. His tackle is all over the papers, and then a few months later, that same politician decides for another 3-day weekend he's stopping his community from getting near the waterfall again. Crisis and the welfare of humanity are always the alibi of tyrants. I hope I've been able to show that this closure was never about keeping the people safe, but was instead motivated by greed, contempt for the right of their bosses to be free from the violent hands of government while walking in nature, and being drunk on their own illusion of power in believing they could commit a theft of biblical proportions with impunity. And then to have Carmel council members pat themselves on the back and reward Rarick with even more money after what they had been able to do to their fellow man, their neighbors, to the people they serve is unconscionable. Every single one of them betrayed us and betrayed the founding principles that have kept us free for centuries. This is the lawsuit I filed in federal court as a pro se litigant. I'm now nearly 100 docket entries in with minimal assistance from an attorney. What you see here is all my work. I've written, researched, and filed all the documents. I have dedicated what is now 4 years of my life in leaving no stone unturned as far as the crime our servants committed during 2020, and am turning out to be a pretty formidable opponent. What happened to the criminal charges and all those warrants? I got them thrown out in July in Superior Court, and I did that all without counsel. Let this serve as a shot across the bow to politicians everywhere. Do not attempt to lay claim to the beauty of the divine ever again. Do not entertain that you possess the power to allow a free people to enjoy the sunshine. You are to forever leave us, our children, and our grandchildren alone when we want to enjoy and walk in nature. Do not take what was given to us at birth, because it doesn't and never will belong to you. And you're not going to know whether you've kicked the hornet's nest until it's too late. And for Rerig and the Carmel Council members, it is too late. You will lose, because God knows every hair on your head, and God has not forgotten your arrogance in what you stole from us. And his children, as stewards of that gift, are not going to just let bygones be bygones.
I would suggest everyone that you start doing this with your own police department. Title 42, 1983 is what gives us the right to sue them. Title 241 is conspiracy against rights, and so that's got to be 2 or more. And then 242 is deprivation of rights under color of law. Don't let them get away with this.
That's right.
We're in this position because we've all been lazy. So stop being lazy and start taking your rights seriously and your freedoms.
We will get to observe in this video the faces of politicians when they are publicly held accountable for the dystopian nightmare they forced us to endure. This is the last City Council meeting for Dave Potter, who was voted out, and Bobby Richards, who is resigning. Jeff Barron, unfortunately, is going to remain, as is the city manager, Chip Rerig. That's right, council members of Carmel-by-the-Sea, the people who bought your homes with their hard work are not going to allow you to relegate your extortion and fear-mongering to the dustbin of history or join in the celebration of a term well done. Remember those years when you all acted as though you sat on thrones and the people were your lowly serfs? How thrilling it must have been to have the opportunity to impose curfews on grown adults, close businesses we had taken years to build, and send your police departments to job sites to stop us from working so we could feed our families, while your gravy train of bloated taxpayer-funded salaries never missed a beat. Have you ever stopped to think how unconscionable that was? We have, and we're never going to let you forget what you did back then, dear politicians, because those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And I know all of you Carmel-by-the-Sea politicians were expecting a circle jerk of appreciation on your last city council meeting, so I'm terribly sorry that we the people had to remind you of the legacy you left your grandchildren with a send-off you earned and deserve.
Good afternoon. My name is Ellie, and for some of you, including Mayor Potter and Councilman Richards, today is your last day in office. And it's also our day, the public's last day, to publicly recognize your choices, which will live on in infamy. In the middle of June 2020, you, Mayor Potter, and the city manager, Chip Rerig, in a vlog, that's a video blog online, invited people from around the country to visit our beach. Chip Rerig said, quote, "We are not going to lose the beach for the 4th of July because the great outdoors are always open. So please come." Not that you ever had the authority to close it in the first place, but nonetheless, just a few weeks later, on the morning, the weekend that the country celebrates its liberation from tyranny, you, Chip Rerig, quote, "on the sage advice from Chief Paul Tomasi, decided, crowned yourself emperor. You got up on the morning of July 3rd and made the unilateral decision as an unelected politician to use your standing army to terrify the tourists that had flown here from around the country and purchased hotel rooms to be able to stay and enjoy our beach, to see it had been roped off like a crime scene. One tourist did come from another place in California who wanted to engage in the criminality of walking his dog in the ocean. Woo! Officers Johnson and Boucher stalked him the length of the People's Beach, while the man repeatedly said, "I'm not committing any crime." Officer Greg Johnson of your police department said, "Wait until he gets over there and then go get him. We're going to put him in and he's going straight to jail for walking his dog." Carmel loves dogs, right? His head was submerged underwater. He lost his iPhone in the surf. All the people that were scared to walk past the police tape on that evening watched in fear, and one woman said, "Oh my God, they just took that guy down." In this photo is Officer Joseph Boucher, Jacob Clifford, and Michael Bruno attacked the man from behind for walking his dog in the ocean in Carmel, California. The man was taken to jail in handcuffs, soaking wet, with no shoes, and had to hire an attorney to unwind him from the false criminal charges you, Chip Rarig, Chief Tomasi, Jeff Barron, Bobby Richards, and Dave Potter approved of in your next city council meeting.
Ma'am, your time is up. Next speaker. Thank you.
I'm Liz. He was released in the middle of the night. All of you in your police department didn't care when and if he got home safely. And this was all done because you claimed that we, the people, were going to violate the dreaded 6-foot distancing rule and kill one another and ourselves, despite the fact that, as one local TV station said, although the beach was noticeably empty, the town was still swimming with visitors. So you had no problems whatsoever with people spending money in the shops to bring in revenue, but playing water sports or standing on the sand was a crime that deserved a jail cell. And as you can see from the second photo, your beach disclosure never had anything to do with keeping us safe from ourselves. It had to do with happens when the power of officials, including Chief of Police Paul Tomasi, goes unchecked. Because maybe we, the people, were also to blame for sleeping at the wheel. Rather than condemning this unprovoked attack on a peaceful tourist after being invited here by the mayor and Chip Rarig, in the next council meeting on July 7th, 2020, Mayor Dave Potter, I quote, "thanked the community members for their support of the beach closure," end quote. Council member Jeff Barron was quoted as saying that he thanked the police department for keeping the beach clear and thanking those who are not normally involved with that type of thing in their efforts with supporting the beach closure. Chip Rarig, an unelected politician who still, for reasons unknown, continues to sit on the board of Visit Carmel when he was responsible for what happened to this man when he visited Carmel. Quote, thanked Carmel residents for their support in his decision to close the beach over the 4th of July holiday weekend, and thanked the police department and Monterey Fire for their assistance in educating people if they arrived at the beach, end quote. Is this what you mean by educating us if we arrived at the beach during that weekend? Bobby Richards said in an interview that they had closed Carmel Beach because you were all afraid of a compression factor. Is this the compression factor, Council Member Richards, that you claimed you were all afraid of? So the question is, was this inflicted on us to keep us safe, or did it really always have to do with being intoxicated by your own ability to dominate your bosses with violence? Your bosses, us, the people sitting behind me, and those watching on video. For 3 years, the people tried to obtain the 3 active body cameras of this attack, but we were told repeatedly by the $50,000 a month city attorney, Brian Pyrick, that they were not disclosable.
Ma'am, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your testimony. Next speaker.
And he did that by citing false penal codes and case law. We even sent the police department that is called a litigation hold memo in 2021. That if you would not disclose this footage, you were to preserve them. And yet 2 of them were destroyed anyway, and 1 was sent to us in federal litigation, had been tampered with, and ends abruptly just before this man gets attacked. So all the body camera footage of your betrayal of the people is gone forever. And to add insult to injury, we paid for this. The people of Carmel and the tourists paid for their own enslavement. We know a caller called last month to read off partially what happened to the attorney you hired, Jonathan Redford, when he tried in vain to defend your attempts to conquer us. For the entirety of the time he tried to attach himself to this case, he wasn't admitted to practice law in that court. And time permitting, we were going to read to all the people of Carmel the confession John Redford was ordered to enter into the case. Then thank goodness someone held you accountable for your crimes against nature. Quote, I made the unfortunate and regrettable mistake of erroneously believing that I had already admitted to practice in the court that the Bakula case was venued in when I first became aware of the case. As a result, I erroneously and regrettably did not apply for admission with the California District of California when I first appeared in this case as counsel for the Carmel defendants. Moreover, because of this unintentional mistake I made, I did file many motions and make court appearances in this matter prior to becoming admitted to practice in the Northern District of California. I take full responsibility for this mistake and aver to the court that said mistake was not done with my intent to deceive or fraud the court or the plaintiff in this manner, or with any intent to engage in unprofessional conduct in violation of the local rules. The fact is that I did exercise the privilege of membership in the Northern District of California when I was not entitled to do so for a period of time. However, during that time, I did so regrettably unaware that I was doing so and set forth above, and sincerely apologize to the court for that. Immediately upon learning of my mistake, I applied for admission to the Northern California District and was admitted on February 27th, 2024.
Next speaker, please. Thank you.
Good evening. I think the picture that's being painted here is one where the government has gone beyond the bounds that restricted. The Constitution restricts what city, county, state governments can do. It's really unfortunate that that has happened, but everybody's going to be responsible for the choices that they made during that time. And unfortunately, the attorney that you hired, Jonathan Redford, wasn't admitted to practice before the first district, and all of the documents that were submitted on your behalf through him should not have been valid in that court. It would be nice to be able to repair these mistakes, to be able to reconnect, and to be able to honor God and to honor the people. So I would just encourage you all to really reflect on that, perhaps reflect on the Constitution, the First Amendment, freedom of association, the Fourth Amendment, the right to be secure in your persons, papers, houses, and property. And that's a very big responsibility for everybody, and we all need to take it very seriously. So I would just like to ask you, some of you are leaving, you won't be in public service anymore. Perhaps you may be able to contribute another way, but please reflect on this, and please just remember that God created man, and man created government, and government shouldn't be becoming between God and man. We own the earth, we own the beach. The beach doesn't close. It's not a shop, it's not private property. We're entitled. It's also in the California Constitution, Article 10, Section 4. We have a right to access navigable waterways, okay? So we need to be really careful when we're heavy-handed and we take away rights from the free people, from the American people. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your testimony. Next speaker.
Thank you so much. I'm calling because I as well wish to pick up on the tragic story of all the poor choices by Mr. Potter and Chip Rarig choosing to pretend that they had the right to close nature to the people, costing huge amounts of money that we, the people, are paying. And those costs are still rising because the errors have never been admitted nor atoned for. Worse, the first story of how the first attorney turned out not to be registered was followed by a complete duplicate. The same company, Carpenter, Rothens, and Dumont, next had Esther Teixeira file a notice of appearance because she was supposed to replace Redford, but she as well had not registered. These are incredible coincidences and or something that maybe was just going to get to come to your attention one way or another. And it is costing the people terribly. But how about just noticing what was posted in your agendas for the second half of 2020, where you, Mayor Potter, council members Jeff Barron and Bobby Richards, approved of the following. Section 2, ordering that the rules should apply to the city beaches, that, and without going into so much detail, that there would be punishments for sunbathing, barbecues, having a cooler, etc. Did you honestly think it was okay to tell us, we the people, the original authors and continuing source of government, that you would threaten that we should be punished with 6 months in jail for sunbathing or bringing a cooler onto the beach? Who do you think you are doing that? Please remember that on July 17th, 2020, Chief Paul Tomasi gave an interview with the Carmel Pinecone, further threatening the people, his bosses who pay for his job, that if we brought a chair onto Carmel Beach, we could face a jury trial. The case that you invited onto yourselves with your brash and foolish choices was filed because of your attempts to lay claim to a part of the coast that shows what happens when you violate the laws of the one God who created our beautiful beach in the first place. The spiraling errors of your attorneys that were set in motion by a power which no man on earth can oppose can serve as a caution to politicians everywhere. Those coming in do not repeat these errors.
Let me remind everyone it was Chip Rarig's unilateral decision on the morning of the 4th of July weekend in 2020 to quote-unquote close Carmel Beach under threats of arrest, violence, fines, criminal charges, and actual violence. He is the reason the beach is completely devoid of any people, like in this photo. And he caused this and this. Chip Rarig's decision, along with the eager cooperation of the Carmel-by-the-Sea Police Department and City Council, laid siege to a part of the California coast like an invading army attempting to conquer those that have purchased their homes. And despite the people displaying these images to the gallery and the council members in the December 3rd meeting, reminding them of Rarig's choices, during that very same meeting, the council members rewarded Rarig with even more of our money and extended his contract. He's second raised this year, bringing his base salary to $250,000. They took turns praising Rarig for his work leading the city. You do a good job of managing being bossed around by the council, Barron said, after observing that much of the city administrator's hard work goes unseen by the public. Do you mean this, Councilman Barron? Is that what you mean by his hard work going unseen? But we saw this, Barron. We showed you. None of you can claim this was unseen. Mayor Dave Potter, taking part in his final meeting, told Rarig he's grateful for all of his hard work. Keep it up, don't give up, stick it out. And Councilwoman Dramoff said she appreciates the fact that Rarig is on duty basically 24/7. I know it can often be a thankless job. And since the siege of Carmel Beach in 2020, they've given Rarig one raise after the other, increasing his base pay $35,000 a year from the beginning of 2022 to now, a $35,000 per year increase in less than 2 years, and they are typically retroactive. We need to be honest with ourselves. The politicians in Carmel-by-the-Sea behaved as though they had crowned themselves monarchs that reveled in the idea of subjugating their indentured servants and thought we the people were too weak to speak out or too stupid to notice. They get a perverse thrill out of forcing us to slave our lives away to pay for their vacations, their children's education, and their bloated pensions when they believed they were so untouchable, so above the rule of law, their indentured servants would simply accept being threatened with 6 months in jail for sunbathing on a public beach, so the halcyon days of their rolling tyranny could continue on forever, unabated. The council members of Carmel-by-the-Sea were probably laughing behind closed doors. Their subjects believed they were a free people when they can do this to us and make us pay for it, and pay for it, and pay for it, and pay for it. Maybe that was before this meeting, but from the looks on their faces, I'll bet they're not laughing anymore.